She was found driving erratically through Hollywood at 3 a.m., screaming at officers, wearing nothing but a wig she had shaved her own head to put on. And this was one of the biggest child stars in America. These were the kids who had everything. Fame before high school, fans across the world, careers that most adults spend their entire lives chasing. And then, something broke. Some quietly fell apart. Others broke down publicly, in ways that were impossible to look away from. And a few never made it out at all. This is what really happened to some of Hollywood's biggest child stars. Amanda Bynes wasn't just famous, she was beloved. She started performing on Nickelodeon at 10 years old, and by the time she was a teenager, she was the funniest person on children's television. By her teens, she had her own show and one of the biggest faces on Nickelodeon. But around 2012, something shifted. She began posting increasingly erratic messages online, accusing celebrities of crimes with no evidence. She was arrested for a DUI, then for throwing a bong out of a New York City high-rise window. She set fire to a stranger's driveway in Thousand Oaks, while a small dog sat nearby watching. And she was doing all of it in public, on Twitter, in real time, while the internet either laughed or stared in horror. In 2013, she was placed on a psychiatric hold. Her parents were granted conservatorship over her life. She later said she had been self-medicating with drugs to cope with a disorder she hadn't yet been diagnosed with. She has spoken about wanting to return to acting. Whether Hollywood will let her is another question entirely. But Amanda's breakdown, as public as it was, still played out in fragments. The next story happened faster, and the warning signs were there for everyone to see. In 1998, a little girl from Long Island walked into a Disney audition and walked out as the lead of a major motion picture. Lindsay Lohan had an almost supernatural screen presence. She did it twice in the same film, playing twins, convincing audiences both characters were completely real people. Then came Mean Girls, and she became a full cultural phenomenon. The decline didn't happen overnight, but it felt that way. Between 2007 and 2013, Lindsay Lohan was arrested 6 times. She attended court-ordered rehab more than once, wore a scram bracelet monitoring her alcohol intake, and was photographed looking barely recognizable. Studios stopped calling. Her mother was feeding information to tabloids, and her father was making public statements about her condition on live television. She had no real ground to stand on. What made it so hard to watch wasn't just the spiral. It was that she was clearly talented and clearly surrounded by people who weren't protecting her. She has since rebuilt slowly, returning to film with a Netflix Christmas movie in 2022, and by most accounts, reclaiming a quieter and more stable life. But what was taken from her, and what she lost, can't be fully returned. At least Lindsay Lohan survived the industry's worst. The next person on this list was betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect him from it. Drake Bell was the face of a generation's Saturday mornings. Drake and Josh was the kind of show kids watched on repeat, and Bell had the charisma to make every scene feel effortless. He had a music career on top of it. Teenagers put him on their walls. In 2021, he pleaded guilty to charges of attempted endangerment of children and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and declared a registered sex offender. His career evaporated almost immediately. But the following year brought a different revelation. In the Peacock documentary series Quiet on Set, Bell publicly disclosed for the first time that he had been sexually abused as a child by dialogue coach Brian Peck, a convicted sex offender who continued to work with child actors at Nickelodeon following his conviction. Bell broke down on camera during the interview. He was a victim long before he became someone who caused harm. Both things are true at the same time, and that is deeply uncomfortable to sit with. Drake Bell's story forced audiences to ask who was really protecting these children. If stories like these fascinate you, you're not alone. Subscribe to KINO, because what happened next may be even more heartbreaking. The next case is proof that sometimes no one was, and the cost was a life. Aaron Carter was a pop star at 9 years old. He opened for the Backstreet Boys, his own brother's group, and performed with an energy that stunned concert crowds. By the time he was a teenager, he had his own sold-out tours, his own albums, and a fan base that adored him. He was everywhere, but the money he earned largely vanished, reportedly mismanaged by the adults around him. He struggled publicly with mental illness, with substance abuse, and with a family life that seemed to generate constant chaos. His relationship with his brother Nick became strained to the point of public estrangement. He spoke about being diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, and acute anxiety. He tried to make comebacks. They didn't hold. In November of 2022, Aaron Carter was found unresponsive in his bathtub at his home in Lancaster, California. He was only 34. The investigation found he had drowned with compressed air and alprazolam in his system. He left behind a young son. The people who had profited most from his talent were long gone by then. Aaron Carter's story is heartbreaking. But to understand how this pattern started, how the entertainment industry has been consuming children since long before any of them were born, you have to go back much further. Frances Ethel Gum started performing in vaudeville at 2 years old. By the time she was cast as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, she was 16, and MGM was already controlling her body. Studio executives told her she was too fat. They put her on a diet of black coffee, cigarettes, and appetite suppressants. When she couldn't sleep from the stimulants, they gave her sedatives. When she needed to wake up for a 4 a.m. call time the next morning, they gave her more stimulants. This cycle lasted for years. She had no childhood to speak of. She was not allowed to date freely, not allowed to control her own finances, not allowed to stop working even when she was visibly breaking down on set. MGM's investment in her was more important than she was. By the time she was an adult, her body had been chemically conditioned in ways she would never fully recover from. Judy Garland spent the rest of her life fighting addiction to the pills the studio had put her on as a teenager. She was married 5 times. She attempted suicide more than once. She filed for bankruptcy. She kept performing because performing was the only thing she had ever been allowed to be, playing concert halls across the world to audiences who loved her, even as she was falling apart behind the curtain. In June of 1969, she was found dead in her London bathroom. The cause was an accidental overdose of barbiturates. She was 47 years old. The pills had been prescribed to her, originally, by a studio that needed her alert enough to make the money before she turned 18. These weren't just stories of personal failure. They were the product of a system built to extract value from children before they were old enough to understand what was being taken. Some survived it, some didn't, and the industry that built them rarely answered for any of it.